Welcome in to Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World, brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. If you love fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors and want to make it even better, you're in the right place. With host Rob Keck, your adventure starts right here.
Welcome to Africa's Sportsman Show. I'm Cassie Gerasi from Heart of the Huntress. And on our fourth episode with Rob Keck, who is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World radio show host, we asked our guests, Ivan Carter, Ben Carter, and Shane Mahoney, who started the conservation movements, what is fair chase, and about hunting in Africa.
Shane, conservation, the movement, when did it begin? Who led the charge?
The ferment around what was happening to resources in North America really began in about the time period of the 1860s to the 1870s. And one of the seminal events was the founding of the Boone and Crockett Club in 1887 that signified that there was a growing concern amongst people across the country that the resources of the land were being wasted. The group that really led this ferment and eventually established the processes and policies that we came to understand and have come to understand as conservation really were the sportsmen, men and women of this country. We know some of the best-known personages, such as Theodore Roosevelt and, people of that ilk. But in fact, there had to be armies of them that were in support of this idea that we should sustainably utilize wildlife and that we should not keep people away from engaging in wildlife, but actually make that engagement through hunting and angling to be actually the foundation upon which this recovery would take place. This is history, Rob. This is not fiction. This is something that anyone can read about and can come to understand. This is not something we make up as hunters to look back and say this is what happened. This is what happened. And today we sit here at the Dallas Safari Club convention, so long after those events took place, and we have an unbroken line from that time when those seminal ideas were put forward at the turn of the 20th century and earlier up until today, where hunting still is the major mechanism for conservation in this country. It is not the only one, and hunters must be willing to admit that. There are others who work hard for conservation, but no one can deny our role in this.
Well, is the North American model of wildlife conservation still relevant today? And might it have more global application, Shane?
Well, I think the model is definitely still relevant. I mean, there's absolutely no question. The abundance of wildlife we have in Canada and the United States, when you consider the growth in human populations that has occurred here, and the fact that we have enough weaponry in Canada and the United States to eliminate every living thing that's on this continent, is a testament to the fact that this is still relevant and it still works. This is free and open access for every citizen to have healthy meat, healthy recreation in the outdoors, and play a role in the conservation of wildlife. So it is relevant. Can it be expanded, to other parts of the world is obviously a question that often comes up. We have to be very careful about that. Every circumstance is different. Every country, every culture, every process, every government, every series of institutions. There may be principles that can be brought into other parts of the world, and certainly there have been, but you simply cannot take a model from South Africa or Tanzania or North America and simply transpose them back and forth across continents. Elements may be possible, but not entireties.
I want to ask the question about fair chase. This is a term that is used quite often in our community. Ivan, what does fair chase mean for the modern hunter, and just how important are ethics in hunting and angling? And then, Ben, I want your take on that as well.
Fair chase is the pursuit of an animal that's got a fair advantage, a fair means of getting away. You're not able to identify an individual and go and kill that individual. You have got a good chance of failure. You've got an equal chance of success in a lot of cases. And I think that rolls right into ethics. And today, more than ever, it's so important for hunters to stay within the code of ethics, not just the code of the law, which is equally important, but within the code of ethics. We are under the spotlight right now as hunters, and we're having to prove ourselves every time we open our mouths, every time we post on social media. We have to prove that we are the conservationists that we are. And so adhering to a code of social ethics is absolutely the most important thing that we can do for hunting right now.
Ben?
I can't agree more. We're in the spotlight, and actually, the Cecil the Lion thing, I think, has changed a lot of things, because all of a sudden people that were the middle body of the United States, that 80% out there that have always accepted hunting as an acceptable activity, became angry because they all of a sudden a lion had a name, and lions don't have names, of course. But so we as hunters and outdoorsmen have to be very careful about what we say, and we have to be above and beyond reproach on how we conduct our activities when we hunt. We have to do it only fair chase, and people know when something's right and they know when it's wrong.
Shane, anything that you'd like to add to that?
Well, I just would agree with the comments that have been made. I mean, the whole idea of the hunt is to elicit from the animal its natural capacities for evasion and response to being pursued. And unless there's a reasonable chance of that taking place, then we cannot call it hunting. It's as simple as that. One of the really unique things about hunting, of course, is that most of it takes place away from the scrutiny of anyone. After the fact, of course, people comment on it, but the individual activity often takes place when no one can know really what is happening. And so there's an enormous burden on the hunter to be their own conscience, to take their own steps in this direction.
Ivan, how has the hunting industry changed in Africa over the last 20 years?
I think what's ended up happening as a result of multiple influences, the most important being the huge rise in the human element. Hunting in Africa has shut in a lot more areas than used to be open. It's shut because of social pressure and exactly what we were talking about earlier. As hunters, we don't do a great job of explaining the business model that we support. We spend more time, showing people what we've done versus how that is affecting positively conservation. And I think that a lot of those areas that have closed, today you can walk through areas that had abundant wildlife, and there is no wildlife there. The human element is growing so fast in Africa. There's no greater time for us to be supporting that human element in a way that they are not eating the wildlife directly. We're all people whose primary survival is going to come first. And if the only way that we can fill our bellies is through the local wildlife populations, we're going to do that, illegal or not.
Thanks for watching, and remember to follow us on our website, the Universal Sportsman channel at usctv.tv, and stay up to date with weekly posts on our Facebook page, Universal Sportsman Channel.